Hi YouTube! So I thought it would be fun to do a sit-down video and tell you a bit about my labor and delivery story. Miss Aviana here was born 3 weeks early, which was not a surprise to us, really. We knew she would be born early, we just didn't know which day exactly. It was actually on my 37-week appointment on the dot. I just thought it was my normal checkup, obviously. I actually had a lunch date planned with my friends for that day, and I told them, I'll just be quick in and out, maybe an hour. I'll meet you at so-and-so for lunch. So I went in, had my appointment, and everything was going well up until they took my blood pressure, and it was just a little elevated for the first time. It was completely fine my entire pregnancy. And then all of a sudden it was a little, I think it was like on the verge of hypertension, but not quite. So my nurse was like, I'm just going to send you over to the hospital, which was right across the street pretty much, which is why I chose this place. But she's like, I'm just going to send you to the hospital so they can check it again, clear you, check the baby, make sure everything's okay. I'm like, all right, that's cool. Like, thank you for being extra cautious, I guess. So I called my husband. I'm like, hey, no big deal, but I'm running over to the hospital, to the labor and delivery floor, just to get my blood pressure checked. So I got there, and I called my parents too, so they came rushing over. I didn't have Dawn leave work because I didn't know anything was going to happen. Anyways, I got to the hospital, we got all checked in, got to my room, and the first thing that I asked my nurse was, how long is it going to take, because I have a lunch date planned with my friends. And she's like, I don't know, you'll have to ask the doctor that. And I'm like, okay, well that's weird. So I let my friends know, like, I don't know how long this is going to take, maybe you guys just want to come here. So the doctor comes in, my favorite doctor ever. She's been on me and my husband's fertility journey from the beginning, which I'll tell you guys all about in another video. So it was super exciting that she was the one working and got to come in and see me. And then she told me that I will not be leaving without a baby. So I'm pretty sure my heart skipped a beat. Like, so many emotions came flooding over me. Just the thought that this is it. I'm gonna go home with our little baby, our little Aviana. So I actually was like, I asked the doctor, I'm like, is it okay if I call my husband? And she's like, yes. So I called my husband, and he's like, I'm leaving right now. I'll be right there. Luckily, I already had stuff, my hospital bags packed at home, so I had him run home and get that. And then he came rushing over to the hospital. My parents were already there. My friends came rushing over, and it was just a lot of emotions. It was a centimeter dilated already, but I wasn't in labor or anything, so they had to speed it up a bit. They actually had to give me like a half hour of the hormone to help induce labor, even though I think it was going to happen naturally on its own anyways. The doctor had already said that her head was really low, and we kind of had a feeling. So they actually, they only had to give us a half hour of the hormone, and contractions started moving right along. I started dilating pretty fast. She broke my water around 4 p.m. in the evening, and they didn't think that I was going to have her until 3 the next morning. But as I was laying there, I was like, these contractions are feeling really intense, really close together. And the nurse was like, oh no, I mean, you had to be induced. It's going to be hours, probably not till like the next morning until you start getting close. I also chose to get an epidural. I was scared. I heard stories like sometimes you can get it and then it wears off, or sometimes you get it and it doesn't kick in right away. So the nurse was just like, you'll know when it's time, let me know. But every time I told her that I felt like it was time, she was like, oh no, you still have a while, you should wait a bit. And I was finally like, well, maybe you guys should just check me again and see like how far along I am. So they finally checked me, and I think I had already advanced to 5 centimeters after she broke my water within like an hour. And I'm like, you know what, I think this is going fast. I think it's time. Can I please have an epidural? So they finally got me one, and they kept coming into the room and asking like, are you feeling any better? Is there any relief? And I'm like, no, they're still, like, I had to breathe through them. You know how you do. I couldn't even talk. They were so painful. And it was like an hour or two later, and I still felt them. I still felt everything. And they're like, well, give it some time. It should hopefully kick in. Meanwhile, I was in intense labor, and my husband decided he was hungry, and someone brought him a 12-pack of tacos. So ladies, imagine your husband walking around munching on tacos while you are having extreme contractions. It was the most distracting thing ever, but I think it was kind of his coping mechanism in the moment. He ate all 12 of them by the time I had this kid. Anyways, it's a fun story to share. So, and it's true in the movies, like, I didn't want anyone talking to me, touching me. My mom kept coming in the room, can I get you ice to suck on? Can I get you a cold rag for your head? I'm just like, no, Mom, just leave the room. I don't want any talking. And my best friend was in there too. Luckily, she was keeping quiet, just being there for support if I needed her. And then I asked my husband to rub my feet, I think, just to see if that would help. The second he touched my foot, I was like, get off me, like, don't touch me again. So everyone left the room finally, my mom, my friends, and I just had my husband in there. He just stayed off to the side eating his tacos because I didn't want him anywhere near me at the time. And then finally the doctor came in and checked me again, and I was 8 centimeters dilated. And then she's like, all right, it's pretty much time to get ready, because this was all within a matter. She broke my water at 4 p.m., remember? And I had her at 8:10 p.m. So this was all moving right along. So she started getting ready. She's like, if your next contraction, you can go ahead and push if you want to. So I pushed all right, and her had already started coming out. My doctor had to quick throw her gear on, have her nurses like set up all her equipment and stuff. And 3 pushes later, she came right on out. It was so quick. So fortunately and unfortunately, the epidural never kicked in time for the actual birthing part. I felt this little munchkin come right on out of me. It was a little bit of pressure and more relief. Definitely not near as bad as the contract. The contractions were just awful. They were so intense. I didn't get any relief in between any of them the whole time because my labor went so fast. So she came right on out. I actually felt her head right before she popped out. I felt her head of hair. She was born with dark black hair. It's getting lighter the older she gets, just like mine did. So my epidural kicked in afterwards, which was kind of nice. It kicked in by the time she was doing stitches. I actually tore because I went so fast, I guess. I think I had to have 13 stitches. It was only 2nd degree tearing though. But that was the worst. Contractions in the postpartum was the worst in my eyes as opposed to the actual birthing part. That wasn't too bad, I don't think. Anyway, so it was nice that the epidural did kick in then, because then I had some relief after all was said and done and I could rest a little bit. My husband texted my parents telling them that she's here, and they came running into the room before, like in the middle of me getting stitches and stuff. My mom actually saw my placenta laying there. She didn't see anything else. They went right back out. I'm like, give us a minute, like we gotta get some things cleaned up. They were so excited. I barely even got to hold my daughter yet, but my parents, her grandparents are the best. My husband and I couldn't have done it without them. So anyways, I think I pretty much covered the main parts of the birth story, but all said and done, I'd say it was quick, but it certainly was painful. Those contractions, I will never forget those, but there was one moment when the contractions were really, really bad. I was like, I am never doing this again. But once it was all said and done, she was in my arms. I was like, I would do this a million times over just to have her or any other children. Another thing I wanted to add, people always ask about what emotions you feel. When I first reached down and touched her head, like as she was coming out of me, that's when the wave of emotions came over me. The first thought, I can just remember it vividly, that came into my head was that nothing else in the world matters. Like, it's just this baby girl right here. And I knew that our lives would never be the same. So the first night, she slept the whole night. because it's exhausting being born into this world. Unfortunately, I was not able to sleep. I laid there and watched her the entire time, making sure she was okay, even though she came out perfectly healthy, no complications whatsoever. My blood pressure did stay high throughout the whole birthing process, but it finally came down then after she came out. I'm not really sure why that happened, but luckily we were all okay. I'm sure a lot worse things could happen. The next night then was the cluster feeding. She fed on and off all night, and nobody warned me about that. I didn't know really what was going on. I had never even heard of cluster feeding, but we survived, and then we went home, and now it is over 4 months later, and I'm ready to do it all over again. So we want a little house, a house full of children. We love babies, and we're having so much fun with her. And kudos to you single parents out there. Like, I just couldn't imagine having done this alone. I really couldn't. I don't think I could. So you guys are awesome. Like, good for you. But I guess you do what you have to do for your babies. I mean, if I had to, obviously I would, but I'm just blessed that I do have my husband. Yeah, I think I covered everything. Postpartum journey is a whole nother story. I think that's going to be a whole nother video, as well as our infertility story. I want to tell you all about that. Maybe I can tell you a little bit how my pregnancy was, but I don't want to bore you guys with too much in one video, so I'm going to break them all up. But I thought it'd be fun to start with the labor and delivery. So I hope you guys enjoyed. If you have any questions, go ahead and comment below. Please subscribe, share, give a thumbs up if you liked it. I think it's fun, us YouTube mommies coming together and supporting each other and talking about the journeys. I think it's really helpful. So, I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye! Say bye! She just wants a munch on her hand with her teething. Say bye, baby!